For my entire life, I had one approach, just one, to reading a book. I would pick it up, I would start at the first page, and I would just read it all the way through. And it wasn't until recently when I read How to Read a Book that I found out that, lo and behold, there is actually a better way to approach reading to get more out of the information we consume. Who would have thought that someone would have put effort into thinking about how you can actually read a book? Now, there are different levels. There's inspectional reading. You can systematically skim to get the gist of the book. The superficial reading, which is really what I was doing. You can go more in depth on a book, or you can do comparative reading where you look at multiple sources on the same subject. In this video, I'm going to start off with my approach to systematic skimming using Logseq templates as well as a physical book and index card to set myself up to get the most out of the books that I consume. So let's dive in and take a look. So if you want more information on inspectional reading without having to read all of How to Read a Book, you can head over to short form. You can use my affiliate link on screen or down in the description below. You can sign up and get 5 days of unlimited access as well as a 20% discount off an annual subscription. They have a good summary of what inspectional reading is and what you want to take a look at to supplement what I'm going to be talking about for my approach in this video. When it comes to inspectional reading, you want to get an idea about what the book's about, what is it trying to say in a short amount of time. Usually I'd say around 15 minutes. And I like to think about how can this book help to advance my current interests or projects. That's the lens that I'm looking at a book through. And really what you end up looking at is the parts of the book that before I would never take a look at. I would never review the index, let's say. So this is a way to look at those very valuable summary sections of a book to help you get that idea of what it is about before you proceed with reading it further. So the first thing that I do is I will create a page within Logseq that will house the information for the book, and I start filling in the metadata around the author. One particular item that I add that I think is useful to provide additional context is the year that the book was published. Obviously, a book that was published about knowledge management back in the 70s is going to be very different in terms of the context around that than, say, Building a Second Brain, which was just published this year. So that will help kind of understand what lens or what kind of information you might see in the book or what was going on at the time. And then my Logseq template also has reminders for the things that I want to review, so I don't have to remember it every time I go to do a superficial reading. I can look this up to help get me into the habit of what it is I want to take a look at. So what does those sections review actually do? So when I perform my inspectional reading, first thing is I start a timer. I want to keep the amount of time that I'm investing in this systematic skimming very low. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by reviewing the table of contents. I want to get a sense of what are the main subject areas, how is this book laid out, and I might make note of any particular ones that I want to potentially read further if I were to do a superficial reading later on. And then the next thing that I do is I go to the index and I start scanning through the index to see what terms or areas of interest related to my current projects are contained within the book. I'll make note of them, and then perhaps for a few of them I'll just jump to those sections, read a couple paragraphs, just again to kind of get a sense of what's going on in the book and what I might be able to get out of it. And then I'll just flip through the book, looking at different chapters, maybe reading the first paragraph or last paragraph in chapters that seem particularly interesting. And if there is a summary or an epilogue or anything at the end that kind of brings the message, the theme of the book together in the author's own words, then that is a perfect thing to read to get a sense of, is this book going to be valuable, and how is it going to be valuable for me to read? So once I've done the systematic skimming and reviewing all those different parts of the book, then I'm just going to write a few sentences out about what the book is about in my own words. It'll help clarify whether or not I have a good sense of what it is about, what sections I think might be particularly interesting, or what I think the themes are. And then the next thing that I'm going to do is I want to clearly articulate what questions I'm going to keep in mind when reading the book. Now, before, like I said, I would just read the book start to finish, and I was capturing everything that was of interest or that I think might be useful down the road. I was taking a just in case approach to taking notes rather than a just in time. And in an article that I recently wrote over on Medium, which linked down in the description below, I talk about the importance for having filters when you're consuming information for knowledge development. And this is one way that I establish those filters when I start reading a book. So once I have those questions clearly articulated, the last thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to create an index card for that book. And this serves as a bookmark as well as the location where I can write down and record those notes while I'm reading. And then I also be sure to put those goals on the index card, because that's the compass that's going to orient my mind every time I pick up a book. When I open the book to the bookmark, I see what is the goal that I want to get out of reading this, so it helps me to filter out a lot of that unnecessary information that I might encounter. So that is my process for systematically skimming. Let me know how you approach skimming a book before you go ahead and read it. If there's anything that I could incorporate into my own system that you've found particularly useful, I would love to hear about it down in the comments below, and I will see you all next time.